Hey guys, it's Meredith with phoneticfluency.com. Welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up Anki for language learning. Anki is an incredible tool. I've been using it for over 6 years for language learning, so I want to show you guys how you can use it as well. I'm not an expert, so this guide is not going to be all encompassing because there's a lot of different features. We're going to cover just the basic features and setup so that you can get up and running as soon as possible. Anki is a flashcard app that uses spaced repetition. You can go to the Wikipedia page if you want to know more, but essentially, spaced repetition is a learning technique that uses flashcards. More difficult flashcards and newly introduced flashcards are shown more frequently, while flashcards that you know very well or that are older are shown less frequently. And this spaced repetition technique is proven to increase the rate of learning. Imagine that I just taught you a brand new word in English. Your recollection right now would be at 100% because I just said the word to you. But then you're going to forget it. Well, let's say I remind you again, you're going to forget again. And then I remind you again, you forget. I remind you, you forget. And so it goes. But each time that you're reminded of this word, the time it takes you to forget the word is longer and longer. This is the technique that Anki uses to be really efficient. So it's only going to show you words right in the moment that you need to see them to increase your ability to memorize them over time. Why do you need a guide to set up Anki? Anki is extremely useful. It's also free. It's very powerful, but it has a lot of back-end configuration available. There's a lot of special features and settings that you can do. It's highly customizable, and you might not need all of that, but it's really cool if you do want to use those tools. But point is, it requires a little bit of initial setup. It's not that hard, but it's not something you can just download and immediately start using without any guidance. Setup, however, is only one time. So when I set up Anki, I set it up once and I haven't touched it in 6 years. So it's really not that complicated. The things that are the most complicated are card settings and study settings or review settings. So if you want to skip forward to those sections, you can because the rest is pretty intuitive. But in this video, I'm going to guide you through everything from the start all the way to the finish. Before we get into the setup, I think you need to know how Anki works. So we're going to do a study session together. This is going to help it all make sense later, and I'm going to show you, and then we're going to do the setup. What you need to know is, as I said before, Anki is a flashcard app. So this is made of decks, and the decks are made up of individual cards. The deck we're going to study today is my Spanish deck. All of the cards in it I made myself. We're going to talk about that more later. And later we're going to talk about the settings. But what you should know is the way the information is being presented to me in this study session is something that I chose. That's what we're going to cover later in the video. But for now, let's just do a study session together. So I'm going to open the Anki app on my phone. And we see the first card. I chose to always have my native language first, English, and then the target language on the other side of the card. So I see this, and then my brain has to try to make the connection. Okay, to even out, how is that in Spanish? I actually don't remember. To even out. Nivelar. Okay, and so now I see the answer. And now you can see these options down here at the bottom. This is the really important part. We're going to talk about this in even more detail later, but you can already see I have the options again, hard, good, and easy. Again means I didn't get it right at all. Hard means I got the right answer, but it was hard for me to get there. Good and easy mean what it sounds like they mean. I either got it really good or it was easy. I would even say that this was maybe hard for me, so I'm going to choose hard. Immediately afterwards, acto seguido. Okay, so that one was actually good or maybe even easy for me. So you can see that I have these good and easy options, and you notice how they have time periods above them. So if I choose that I got this good, it's not going to show me this card again for another 1.2 years because the app understands that I know this card very well. So I'm going to go ahead and click good. Thumbtack. It's tachuela. No. Yeah, tachuela. Okay, so that was obviously hard. I'm going to click it, and you see what this does. Hard. I'm telling the app that I knew this card, but not right away. So I'm probably going to review it again in another 3 months because I was just reminded, so now the word is fresh in my mind, but probably I need to see it again in 3 months. So let's pick that. Mas. Musgo. That was easy. 2.9 years. I don't need to see this card again for 2.9 years. To melt. Derretirse. That was also easy. I don't need to see this card again for another 7 years. Okay, so I think you get the idea of how it works inside of a study session. So now that you understand what Anki is and how it works, we can learn how to set it up. Step is downloading the Anki desktop application. Anki is a mobile app as well as something you can use in the browser, and it's a desktop application. And the mobile app is the thing that I use in my daily life every single day. Most likely it's going to be what you use the most as well, but I still really recommend that you download the desktop application for initial setup. So we're going to do that. I'm on ankiweb.net, and it gives me a link here. That takes me to apps.ankiweb.net, and I'm going to click on Download Anki and start the download to my computer. While we wait on the download to complete, we can go ahead and set up an account. So going back to ankiweb.net, the homepage, you can click Sign Up in the top right corner and create an account. I already have an account, so I'm just going to make another one using my work email. And let Google suggest a password. Okay, so now I'm signed up. I have to agree to some terms and conditions, I guess. Okay, and continue. They're going to send me a verification email, so let me verify my email. Okay, just verified my email, and also the download is complete for installing it. I finished downloading Anki to my computer, so now this is what I see, and I need to log in. I don't know why there's not a login button, but I'm just going to click on Sync, and that's going to take me here to log in. Okay, so now I'm logged in. The first thing we need to do is get or create a deck, because Anki is a flashcard app, so we use decks, which are full of cards. One of the first questions I get is if Anki provides materials for you to study, and the answer is yes, kind of. Anki itself is just the platform, so they don't really provide anything, but users create their own study materials, and then they share these decks publicly so that you can download and use them. And we can access that by clicking the button right here that says Get Shared, and also from the Anki homepage, Get Shared Decks. As you can see, one of the most popular categories is languages, but there's also some other things. We're going to look at how to download a shared deck, but before that, I want to talk about when you need to use a shared deck and when you want to create your own deck. Most of the time, it's going to be better to create your own deck, because these are words that you learned in your real life, in real contexts, and you can give more context. It's not just a word by itself. Maybe it's an entire sentence or phrase, and that's going to help your memory be stronger. So it is better if you create your own. When I recommend using a shared deck is if you are an absolute beginner starting with a new language. You might want to download a frequency list of the most common words of that language so that you can start building your vocabulary. So let's imagine that you're a beginner in Japanese. We can click right here on Japanese, and you see all of these results. Again, these are things created by people, just people who use Anki, who have uploaded them for us to be able to download. And so what you decide to download will depend on what you're looking for. I can see here already we have a Japanese Core 2000. That sounds pretty promising. I like these kind of frequency list of 2000 most common words when you are, again, an absolute beginner in a language. So let's click on it. Okay. I see it has audios, which I like, but with the pictures and everything, I actually think this might be too much information. Let's try Japanese most common. Okay, 1000 most common Japanese words with audio. It's got the hiragana, the word in English, the word in kanji, and the audio.
本屋
I like this. So this is the one I would go with. So the next thing that I need to do is download it and then add it to the Anki app. So I'm going to click on download. It's going to download like a regular download. And once that download is finished, I can click on it and it will automatically go into my Anki app on my desktop. So I click import options. I'm just going to leave everything as it is and click import. Okay, so now these are imported. And I can close this window. Now I'm here, and now I can see it as one of my decks in Anki. And right away, you could just start studying this, but there are some study settings that we have to set up first. We're going to cover them in one of the next sections. So for now, we're going to put a pause on this. I'm going to show you how to set up your own deck, how to add cards, and then eventually we'll come back to the study section later. But that's how you get a shared deck. To create your own deck is super easy. All you need to do is click Create Deck. It's going to want you to put a name. So let's say for me learning Spanish, I put Spanish words. Done. Now I created the deck. But if you think of a deck of cards, I just created only the deck. So now I need cards to actually go in the deck. So now we're gonna learn how to make cards. There are two main ways. I'm gonna teach you both. One way is one by one, which you can do both on desktop and on the mobile app. And the other way is by importing a spreadsheet. That's my preferred method, but let's look first at adding one by one. So I'm gonna click on this button that says add. The important thing that you do need to change is make sure you've selected the correct deck. So I'm gonna select Spanish words. And let's put an example. So we have hello, hola. As you can see, it works like a flashcard. There's a front and a back. The front is what you'll see first, and the back is what you'll see after. I personally would prefer to change these in the settings to say English and Spanish, and I will show you how to do that later, but for now, let's leave it alone with front, back, add. So now that word has been added to my deck of Spanish cards, and let's add a couple more so we can see some of the features. So let's say word, palabra. So I have some really basic features here that I can do, like bold, italics, whatever that is. But I don't usually use some of that stuff. Another thing that we can do is attach. So if I click the attach button, I can attach images, videos, and audios. A lot of people like studying with images. I don't think it's necessary because I already have the word in my native language. Why do I need to see a picture? So the thing that I do recommend is studying with audios. So if you're studying a language that's not your native language, the best thing would be to upload an audio of a native speaker saying the words. So if you've already downloaded an audio, you would click here and upload that audio. There is also this function where if I click this, it's gonna record whatever I say. And now that's attached to the card. So that's another option. For me, this has been the only way that I've ever used Anki. I put my native language on the front, the target language on the back, and an audio file if I need one. There are a lot of really cool advanced features, and I'd be remiss not to mention them, so we will talk about that now. In Anki, the card is essentially just the information, and we can tell Anki how we want that information to be presented to us. As you can see, the default is front and back, but the other options are all controlled by card type. So we can see up here, type, basic, and if I click on this, I see all these other options. These are the ones that got imported automatically with that shared deck that I downloaded, but I can see I have basic, basic and reversed card, optional reverse card, type in the answer, and close. So basic is what we already saw. Basic add reverse, if I choose that, that means that when I add, let's say food, comida, when I click add, Anki is going to create two cards. Let's see if maybe I can see that. If I go to browse, this button is how I see the cards that I have made. So I don't see any, so I have to go down to, okay, here we go, Spanish words. So now I see the cards that are included in my new deck. And I can see I have this card, which is hello, hola. I have this one, which is tree, árbol. I have this one, which is word, palabra. And then here, because when I selected to add the one that was food, comida, I selected the card type, basic and reverse, it created two cards. Both of them look the same, but when I do a study session, one of the cards is going to show me food and I have to guess comida, and the other time it's going to show comida and I have to guess food. So that's one of the other options in terms of advanced features based on card type. I personally don't recommend this. I like to see only in my native language and then have to guess the word in the target language because this is the strongest way to build that connection. My recall when I hear the word in Spanish is automatically going to be pretty strong, so thinking of the word is actually better. So I don't use this one at all, but it is there. We have optional reverse card. I guess, yeah, I think you would type like yes here or Y if you want the reverse card. I don't really remember, but if you're interested in this option, you can look it up. Basic, type in the answer. Pretty straightforward. I would type the word in English and type the word in Spanish, just like in any other situation. But when I add this and I go into my study session, I'm going to have to type the answer instead of just guessing it in my head. The next option is close, which I think is a little advanced for the purposes of this video, but it is a pretty cool thing. It's sort of like a fill in the blank. So let's imagine I'm training the subjunctive and I want to make sure that I can use it in a sentence. I would type a sentence which requires a subjunctive. So, espero que tengas un lindo día. And so I'm going to select the word tengas because that's the one that I need to fill in. And I could add here in parentheses verb tener. And so I have to conjugate the verb tener right here. And so I can do close. And I think I need to add it right here. Okay, add. Now when I see that card, if I start a study session, espero que, un lindo día, espero que, show answer, tengas. Okay, cool. So that is how close works. One other feature you can see when you create a card is the tags. I have never used this function in my life, but I suppose it could be useful. You could do like, verbs or whatever, or, subjunctive. You could do however you want to categorize cards, but I don't really see the use because when I study my Anki set, I want to study all of my cards without doing any filtering, but that's the purpose of this. You can add these tags so that then when you do a study session, you could filter them based on certain tags. So those are all of the features I want to go into regarding card types and all of the customization there. I think that anything further than that is a little too advanced for this, but as you start using Anki, you can see what you might like to have. Like if you think, oh, it would be cool if I could do whatever. Probably you can. So you would just go on Google and say how to do blah, blah, blah in Anki and figure it out because there's a lot of stuff that you can do. I recommend starting basic, front, back, and audio, and then you can build from there. One thing I forgot is the fields. So I like to rename these to the languages. So instead of front and back, I'm going to call them English and Spanish. We just learned what cards are and how to add them one by one on the desktop app. So let's learn how to do the same thing on the mobile app. I did log into this new account on the app. To add a new word in the app, you need to click on something else because add import for some reason is not it. You actually have to go into a study session and then you can click this add button at the top left and then you can add, which is a little bit confusing, so not the best way. What I would do instead is long press the app on iPhone and then click add cards. For Android, you can create a widget, which will just be to add a card directly to Anki, which is pretty convenient. So the only time I would add in this way is if I'm out and about and I learn a brand new word and it's just one single word in isolation and I can add it quickly, and if I don't really need an audio file, because you can technically click this button and attach a file, but if you're gonna try to find a download of a native speaker saying the word, that's not gonna be so easy to do on the go. So if you wanna add audios to every card, probably better to do on your computer, but I never really add audios for Spanish because Spanish phonetics is pretty straightforward. So let's say I'm doing like duck, pato. It's pretty straightforward, so I never use audio files, but it just depends how phonetically complex the language is, and then you just click save, and now that card has been added. The better way to add cards is not one by one, but rather by importing them from a spreadsheet, which is super simple to do, and this is a really great way to make a list of new vocabulary that you learned, for example, in class, and quickly import all of it into Anki. So let's go into Google Sheets and I'm gonna create a new spreadsheet, new Spanish words, and I can put headers here like English and Spanish. And if you use tags, here is where you could put tags. This is how I always used to do it. So I would have class with my teacher, and during that class, he would type my corrections, or maybe I would take notes, or maybe I would watch the recording after. And anyways, I would see all of the new vocabulary words I learned during that lesson. So then after class, I would come through and put them in here. So let's say, soup, sopa, bat, murciélago, and lightning, rayo, bottle, botella. Okay, so I'm gonna delete tags because I don't use them. So now it's ready for import. I just need to download it. And I'm gonna make sure to download as comma separated values. Okay, new Spanish word spreadsheet, save. I'm gonna open the Anki app again, click on import file, find the file that I just downloaded, open, and now I'm gonna choose basic, because remember I don't like the reverse card, deck, Spanish words, front, 1 English, 2 Spanish, and that should be it. So now let's click import. And I can see these that have been imported. If I click on show, it's gonna show me where they are inside the card browser feature. I imported English and Spanish as one of them, so it didn't recognize them as headings. So I guess in the future we don't need to use headings. But let's take a look. So if I start studying, I can skip ahead. Okay, soup, sopa. Bat, murciélago. Lightning, rayo. Bottle, botella. And that is how you can upload a large number of words. We can delete the headings into Anki from a spreadsheet, which is by far my favorite way to do it. The only downside to this method is not being able to quickly add audios to all of these, but I don't really think there's a quick way to add audios at all. How I would do that is, let's go into the individual cards, and then I need to make a new line and click on attach, and then I need to attach the audio file. Where are you getting all of these audio files, you might be asking? I recommend the website forvo.com. You can search a word. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. So you can search a word. Let's copy this word and search it here. And now I have my pronunciations. Latin American.
Murciélago.
Cool. Download. Done. Come back to Anki where I'm adding this card. Click on attachment and here we go.
Murciélago.
Great. Now I have an actual native speaker saying this word, and I don't need to save it. I can just close, and now that card has the audio. Forvo.com. Another option is Wiktionary.org. This one works very well for English. It has a lot of words, but Forvo is probably the most expansive one. The problem with adding audio in this way is that you have to manually go and download the audio from forvo.com and then manually add it to every single card, so that's a little time consuming. Currently, I'm using a workaround for that with my Portuguese deck, and I'm going to show you how that looks. So I logged back into my Anki account. You can see my decks. The Frequency Dictionary of Portuguese, that's a shared deck that I downloaded from someone else, and the Spanish words and phrases, that's all the cards that I made. So I'm gonna have this highlighted and click on browse, and that's going to take me into the card browser. You can see there's a lot of different categories I can choose here, but because I had the deck highlighted, it automatically brought me here into my deck of Frequency Dictionary of Portuguese, and so I can see all the cards. And remember, the cards are just the information, and then card type is how I tell Anki how I want that information presented to me. So for example, I have this one here, English on the front, Portuguese on the back, because that's my preferred way to study, native language first, target language second. But if I click this cards button right here, it's going to pull up the card type information. So up at the header, you can see card types for Ing front, Portuguese back with audio. So that's the card type that I have assigned to all of these cards. And you can see that English is on the front template and Portuguese on the back template. Now, I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to explain to you how to set this up from zero on your own. I used AI to do it, so I explained to Gemini what I wanted, which is I told Gemini, in Anki, when I study these cards, I want an automated voice using text-to-voice technology to say the word out loud to me. And so that's how I was able to get this code. But essentially, this part right here, that means that the Portuguese side of the card should be on the back. So in Anki's coding, I've told it which side is English and which side is Portuguese, and now I'm telling it, okay, on the back card, I want the Portuguese word to be displayed. So if I deleted this, the word will disappear. So I need to leave that there so that the Portuguese word in writing is there. So this is the part that is doing the audio. As you can see, it says something like Apple Fernanda Enhanced Portuguese. This is telling Anki what language it is and what voice to use on my phone, because I study almost entirely on my phone. So this is telling Anki, okay, read the word out loud and read it in this voice, which is a certain voice that exists on iPhones. If you want to have audio on all of your cards, but you don't want to have to manually download and upload the audio from Forvo every single time, this is a really good option. What I recommend that you do is the same thing that I did and ask Gemini or ChatGPT to help you create this code so that it will do that for you when you study your card. We finally made it to the final setup step. After this, you'll finally be able to start studying. So let's take a look. These are going to be the review settings or study options. Not exactly sure what they're called, but anyway, what this is doing is telling Anki how strict to be with you about your recall and how frequently to show you cards. To get into these settings, we're going to click the gear icon beside any deck and click on options. From here, you need to select which card type you want to edit. In this account that I made for this video, I only have one card type, so I'm going to leave it there. But if you did have multiple card types, they would be here. And I recommend using the same settings for all of your card types. So let's leave it there. I want to go ahead and tell you that when I set this up for my Anki 6 years ago, This is the most complicated part, in my opinion, the part that actually needs guidance from someone else. I'm not an expert, so at that time when I did the setup, I just followed the recommendation from someone who is an expert and just left it alone. So that's exactly the same thing I'm going to be doing in this video. I watched another video from the YouTube channel, the Anki. So it's like a channel just about Anki. If you want more detailed information about why we're using these settings, you can watch that video, which I will link in the description of my video. But all the settings I'm going to give you today come from that video, so let's get into it. So the first thing that you need to do is scroll down to this option that says FSRS. This is a new thing that I wasn't even aware of until filming this video, but it means Free Spaced Repetition Scheduler. In the past, when you set up Anki, like when I did 6 years ago, you had to understand all of this and choose your options. What this does is it uses an algorithm to understand your learning and customize it for you. So we're going to toggle that to on. Desired retention, this is like how strict Anki is going to be with you about remembering a card. We're going to leave this at 90%. You don't need to touch anything else here. By turning this on, we're letting Anki take over a lot of the control of these settings. So that's going to make things easier, but there are still a few settings we want to tweak manually ourselves. So let's scroll up to the top and start with daily limits. Daily limits is pretty straightforward. Basically, it's telling Anki how many new cards you want to have per day and how many reviews you want to have per day. For new cards, this depends whether you're using a deck that you downloaded that already has like 2,000 cards in it, or if you're using your own study set that you created. If I were using my own study set that I created, I can put the limit for new cards pretty high because I'm not adding new cards very frequently. I'm adding new cards every time I hear a new word or I learn it in class. So I would set this pretty high. If you're learning from a deck that you downloaded from the shared decks, you could maybe set a limit like 20, 30, 50 or something like that. I'm just going to set this at 50. For maximum reviews per day, as you can see, we got to notice that we need to raise this. I would actually set this at a really high number. So I'm going to set it at like 9,999 because what this is doing is if it's limiting my number of reviews per day, that means that words that I should have reviewed on a given day might be pushed to the next day. So I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to review all the words I'm supposed to review on any given day. So I'm going to put that at a really high number so that it doesn't really limit my maximum number of reviews per day. Moving on to the new cards section. What this does is shows Anki how soon to show you a new card again if you didn't know it the first time you saw it. Again, turning on this FSRS now takes care of a lot of this, but we still do want to up this first step. Learning steps, what they mean is, I mean, you can read this here, but what it is like how you're going to see cards in a step. So remember, when you are learning with spaced repetition, you're reminded and then you forget, and then you're reminded and then you forget. And each time the reminder should be a little bit further spaced out. So what this is doing is the first one that says 1 minute, that's how soon you're going to see it again after the first time that you failed to know this card. And then 10 minutes is how you're going to see it again after the second time. This is really fast because for only 1 minute, if you're in a study session and you click again, because you didn't know the card, it's going to show you this card again in only 1 minute, and you might not have finished your study session by then, so you're going to be seeing the card again within literally 1 minute, which is too much. You don't need to review a new card like that, so we're going to delete 1 minute, and I'm just going to leave this at 10 minutes. So that means I can finish my study session and I'll see the new card again if I study again in the same day, and if not, I will see it again the next day. So now let's scroll down to lapses. I think we can leave this alone. We see this thing that says leech threshold. This isn't super important that you know. What it means is that if you fail a card, I think 8 different times, it's going to give it a tag that says leech, and that means that that's a card that is really hard for you and you continually fail it over and over. So you might want to go review your leech cards from time to time. Okay, now for display order, I'm not even gonna lie, I don't really understand this very well. If you want to understand it very thoroughly, you need to go watch the video I'm going to link from the Anki YouTube channel, but I'm just gonna tell you the settings that were in that video and we're just gonna set them like that. So for new card gather order, we're going to choose random card. Next we have new card sort order, and I'm gonna choose order gathered. Next we have new review order, and we're gonna choose show before reviews. And the next one, interday learning review order, we're gonna choose show after reviews. And finally we have review sort order, we're gonna choose descending retrievability. I'm pretty sure in general, this whole thing that we just did in display order, the purpose is to ensure that the most unstable cards, that is the ones you know the least that you're most at risk of forgetting, are going to be prioritized while all the other cards are showed later. This would be in the case that you didn't finish your study session in a given day or something like that. Let's scroll down to burying. We're going to enable all three. So burying, what burying is, because I do think you need to know what it is in case you need to use this function. Burying is when you are studying, you can bury a card, and all that means is it's going to pause the card till the next day. So if you're studying and there are two cards that are very similar, so you don't want to study them back to back, you might bury the second card. So we're going to turn these settings on, and we're going to skip these next things. Now we have this new feature, Easy Days, which essentially says, are there any days where you're going to study a little bit less? So probably for most people, you'll want to put this low on Saturday or Sunday, or maybe even down to 0. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And now for advanced, I think we don't need to touch this. Yeah, I think we're going to leave that alone. Okay, so I'm going to save those settings. And now we're done with the review settings. Now we're finally ready to start studying, so I'll show you first on desktop and then on mobile, which is my preferred way, but on desktop, all you need to do is click and then click Study Now. And as we went over in the setup, I prefer seeing my native language first and then the target language second. So I see the word in my native language, I have to think, what is the word in the target language? And I think, okay, sopa, and then I can hit the space bar or click and I will see the answer. So I got that right and it was easy, so I'm gonna click on easy. Okay, espero que tengas un lindo día. Okay, that was also easy. So let's take just a second to talk about what these mean. So again, means you didn't get it right at all. Hard means you got it right, but with difficulty. Good means you got it right almost right away. And easy means you got it right and it was very easy. And this is how you teach Anki how well you know certain cards so that it can use the spaced repetition algorithm to help you learn things in a more efficient way. So that's it for studying on desktop. Now let's take a look at how to study on mobile and using the mobile app in general. I'm gonna close this, and as you can see, there was a thing that came up right there that said syncing, uploading, and if I open Anki again on desktop, once again it starts a sync. And that's because it's possible to make changes on the mobile app that are going to affect this, or on the desktop that are going to affect the mobile app. Once you have it on your phone as an app, think of it like this. You have the desktop app on your computer and the mobile app on your phone, and both of these have to communicate with each other for when you make changes. And those changes could be adding new cards, deleting cards, burying cards, or even the study session that you have, because when you study, you're giving Anki the information about how well you know these cards. I couldn't find a way to make it come up on my app or on my desktop intentionally, but this is something that I see from time to time. This message that says your decks here and on Anki Web differ in such a way that they can't be merged together, so it's necessary to overwrite the decks on one side with the decks from another. You could see this on your phone or you could see it on your computer, and basically what it means is you made changes somewhere, whether that was on your computer or on your phone or maybe in the actual in-browser Anki Web website. You made so many changes that it's not synced between your phone, the browser, and the app that you have on your computer. And so you have to decide where you want to pull the information from that's going to overwrite whatever you have. Let's say, for example, I'm on my phone and I get this message, and the last time that I made any major changes, that is like added new cards, that was on my desktop. So what I'm going to choose here is download from Anki Web, not upload to, because I want to pull from the last place that I synced, which in this case was not the phone. In the reverse, let's say I log into the computer and I get this message and I know that I added cards while I was using my mobile app the last time. In this case, I'm going to choose also download from. A situation where I would choose upload to instead of download from would be if I'm on the device where I just made a lot of changes. So let's imagine I'm on desktop and I just uploaded a spreadsheet full of cards, and somehow I end up getting this message warning me that I need to either download from or upload to. In this case, if I made all the changes on the desktop app, then I would choose upload to Anki Web so that that's now the version that's in like the Anki cloud that I can now download to mobile and in browser and in the desktop app. Now let's look at the Anki mobile app, which is the most frequent way that I use Anki to study. The app is totally free on Android and it's called Anki Droid, and it's not free on iPhone. It costs like $24.99. I thought it was worth it to just pay for it, so if you want to, you can. There is a workaround if you don't want to pay for it, and I'll show you that after we explore the app. But I went ahead and logged into this new account on the app, and so right away it just takes me to my decks, and I can just start studying by clicking on the deck that I want to study, and it's going to pull up my cards. So once again, my native language is first, I tap it, and then I see my target language, and I have the same options. Again, hard, good, and easy. And that's really it. I can go ahead and study. There are other features of the app, but I really don't tend to use the app very much for uploading or editing or anything like that, except for the thing that I already mentioned earlier, which is I might add new cards by clicking the add new cards thing and then just type whatever it is if I'm on the go and I learn a new word. But other than that, the main function I use the mobile app for is just regular study. As I mentioned, there's a workaround if you don't want to pay for the mobile app and you have iPhone, and you just need to use your browser, go to ankiweb.net, log in, and then you can use it just like the mobile app, but in browser. So you can just tap on whatever deck you want to study and start studying right in the browser. You can even click the share button and go down and add this to your home screen as a shortcut. So that way, when you just click this button, it's going to take you really quickly into the Anki Web app and you can start studying here. If you made it to the end of this video, congratulations on setting up Anki for language learning. For me, in the last 6 years of learning Spanish, and now that I am a beginner learning Portuguese, Anki has been one of the most important tools in my toolkit. It has helped me to build up my vocabulary when I'm starting a new language as a beginner, and it also helps me to retain all of the words, phrases, and idioms that I learn along the way by using the power of spaced repetition to make sure that I see these cards with the right frequency to really commit them to my memory. Once again, I know this video is not going to be all-encompassing. It's not meant to be. It's just a quick start guide so that you can start using Anki. I'm not an Anki expert. I'm just someone who sets it up, leaves the settings alone, and then never touches them again. Probably that will be the same for you. But if you have a certain use case or you want to know more, once again, I recommend the video that I used to get some of these settings, which is by the YouTube channel, The Anking. It's going to be linked in the description below. Normally at the end of a video, I would say leave me a comment if you have any questions. If you have any questions in this case, I probably can't help you, so go to the Anking, but leave me a comment if you want to tell me how you've used Anki, if this is the first time you've heard of it, or just to hype the video and let me know how I'm doing. That's all, and I will see you next time.